The Holy Gospel according to St. Luke, the 6th chapter.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Looking at his disciples, Jesus said, "Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who hunger now, for you will be satisfied. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when men hate you, when they exclude you and insult you and reject your name as evil because of the Son of Man. Rejoice in that day and leap for joy, because great is your reward in heaven. For that is how their fathers treated the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, for you have already received your comfort. Woe to you who are well fed now, for you will go hungry. Woe to you who laugh now, for you will mourn and weep. Woe to you when all men speak well of you, for that is how their fathers treated the false prophets. But I tell you who hear me, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. If someone strikes you on one cheek, turn to him the other also. And if someone takes your cloak, do not stop him from taking your tunic. Give to everyone who asks you. And if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you." The gospel of the Lord. I don't know if you know this about me, but I love to dream and scheme. I love to vision things out. And that's why the beginning of every year, I absolutely love congregation council retreats. I get to bring a group of people in a room for an entire day and force them to listen to me do this. And so about 7 years ago, I was doing this with my congregation up in Newberry, South Carolina, and we had the perfect place. We were at one of the council members, what he called his pond house. It was sort of like a lake house, only it was on his pond, and it had a huge great room downstairs that everybody could gather in. And so, and I was completely prepared for this. I made a great PowerPoint with a bunch of videos embedded in it. I had all the right questions. I went out and bought poster board and new markers for us to write down all of our things. It was going to be fabulous. And so I drove up from Lexington to Newberry that morning. It was a morning that felt a lot like this outside. It was kind of chilly. Loaded everything out of the car. I mean, you know, this and that, just one thing after the other, and got it all set up in there. And as I was setting up, my phone rang, and it was my wife. And I looked down, and my thought was, now why in the heck is she calling me right now? She knows what I'm doing. Everybody else was eating breakfast, you know, that our host and hostess had lovingly provided, and I was setting stuff up. I wanted to eat. And she told me, you know, just letting you know that I'm going to go to Aiken because they've just taken my dad to the hospital. He collapsed in the driveway, you know. She said it's probably nothing, you know, the flu or pneumonia. He had been having trouble breathing the past few days. And I said, okay, you know, we'll pray for him here, and just let me know if you need me to come. She said, no, I think I'll be fine. Well, I did get to eat the awesome breakfast casserole that morning, and so just as I was starting, my phone rang again. Apparently it was more serious than they originally had thought, and so my wife suggested to me that I go ahead and go. And so, you know, I pulled up my GPS and figured out how to get from Newberry to Aiken. And my wonderful counsel said, you know, don't worry about all this stuff. We'll clean it up for you. You just go. And so I did. And I drove the hour and 15 minutes, but halfway on my drive, my phone rang again. And my father-in-law had died. Apparently, the reason he had been having trouble breathing was he had clots on his lung. And in true form of the man he was, he never went to the doctor to have that checked out. Those clots moved to his heart, and he died. Now, folks, I was a psychology major in college. I learned about grief. I went to seminary for 4 years in pastoral care. I understood grief. At that time, I had been an ordained pastor for 12 and a half years. I had walked with people through the valley of the shadow of death. I had been with them through all of these things. I had gone to retreats where people had went to deal with the loss of a spouse, I understood everything about grief. But now it was in my house. And I found out real quick that I didn't know anything. Because when it's in your house, it's different. It's a lot deeper. It's a lot harder. It is, and it's a whole lot longer than people think it is. Families of Joe and Diane and Dawn and Francis and John and Luther, they know that today. They know how that feels. And lots of you in the congregation today know exactly how that feels, to lose a loved one, to lose a parent, a child, a spouse, a very close friend. You know the sting that death brings with it. You know what true grief is like. Some of you have been through it, and some of you are going through it right now. But now some of you haven't been there yet. Well, maybe you lost a grandparent along the way, an aunt or an uncle, maybe a friend. And you've shed a few tears, but overall you've never really been hit hard by grief. Until that day in January the 26th, 2013, I hadn't. I had lost most of my grandparents at that point in time, but you go to the funeral, I was sad. I went home. And that's okay. Some of you will go home today and it'll be a great day. The Panthers will win, hopefully, and it'll be a day of celebration and joy. Some of you are still going to be struggling when you leave. Because that's what life is, isn't it? There are highs and there are lows. And those of you who have not yet faced it, you will, because as Ben Franklin said, the one thing that is sure of in this life is death and taxes. And if you never have to face the grief that comes with death, it's because you're the one being grieved. That's just the way it is. But see, there's a whole much longer list than just death and taxes that we hear about in today's gospel reading. Listen to what Jesus says. He says, "Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who are hungry now, for you will be filled. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when people hate you, when they exclude you, revile you, and defame you on account of the Son of Man. Rejoice in that day and leap for joy, for surely your reward is great in heaven, for that is what their ancestors did to the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. Woe to you who are full now, for you will be hungry. Woe to you who are laughing now, for you will mourn and weep. Woe to you when all speak well of you, for that is what their ancestors did to the false prophets." Today is All Saints' Day. Today is the day, or All Saints Sunday. Today is the day when we remember those who have died and gone before us. Those saints. And see, they weren't made saints because they did all of the things that we hear. They weren't saints because they were blessed because they mourned, or blessed because they were poor, or blessed because they were hungry. They are saints, and we are saints because of the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. That's the reason that we have gathered here today. That's the reason that in the midst of our pain and struggle, we are able to have joy. But the reality is life. And the truth is, why does it say, "Blessed are you who are poor"? Well, because when you have nothing, you can't lose anything. But at the same time that there are poor, there's also the rich. And sometimes we in our lives are both. Sometimes we are perfectly content, and sometimes we're at the bottom of the heap, right? Sometimes we are hungry, and sometimes we're satisfied. Sometimes we're laughing, and sometimes we're mourning. Sometimes people love us, and sometimes people hate us. That's life, my friends. We are blessed, and we are cursed, all in one. Because those of us who are laughing now, one day the sting of death will touch us too. And those of us who are mourning now, day by day, a new normal starts to happen. But I'll tell you this, it doesn't take the 2 weeks that the world thinks it does. You see, our life is like that. There are good times and there are bad times. And through it all, we have a God who loves us, who is with us all the way. And that is the reason that we can always rejoice. Because of Christ, we are always blessed. But I got to be honest with you, as I read this, the first part makes sense and the second part makes sense, but why are they together? I mean, listen again to the next part. It says, it just turns and says, but I say to you that, listen, love your enemies and do good for those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who abuse you. If anyone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And if anyone takes away from you your coat, do not withhold even your shirt. Give to anyone who begs from you. And if anyone takes away your goods, do not ask from them again. Do to others as you would have them do to you. There was once a little boy who lived in Florence, South Carolina. When he was about a year old, he drank a jug of kerosene, which caused him to have seizures for the next 3 years. He never knew his daddy, neither did his brothers or sisters, but his mother had a long line of boyfriends that would come to the house and beat on the children, especially him, because he was so small. And because he was so small, he was bullied throughout school. Always bullied, and people would make fun of him. They gave him a nickname. Actually, his mother gave him this nickname, and he didn't know his first name until the first time he appeared in court. Do you feel sorry for this kid? His name is Donald Pee Wee Gaskins. For those of you who don't know, he's a notorious serial killer who was convicted of killing 9 people and confessed to killing 110. Wonder what would have happened if someone applied the golden rule to his life. Because you see, my friends, as we go through life, while we're laughing, somebody else is mourning. While we're full, someone else is hungry. While we are satisfied, someone else is scraping the bottom of the barrel. While we have all the friends in the world, someone else feels completely and utterly alone. And so I invite you to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. Have empathy for another human being. Because we don't know where the other person's been. We don't know what they're going through. We don't know the kind of day that a person's had. You know, when you accidentally make a mistake in traffic and somebody just flies off the handle, you don't know why. At the very heart of our sinfulness is self-centeredness. Whether we say it out loud or not, every person in this room believes that the world revolves around him or her. It's just the way it is. We believe that it's all about us. And so when we follow the golden rule, it forces us to look outside of ourselves. It forces us to wonder where the other person's been, makes us wonder where the other person is at that moment. Makes us listen. It makes us speak as we would want to be spoken to. A few days ago, our presiding bishop, Bishop Elizabeth Eaton, basically the Pope of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, of which Pisgah is a part of, signed a document called the Golden Rule 2020 Initiative. She signed it with 15 other major leaders in the different denominations. And what it's about is it proposes 2 things. One, on this day, November the 3rd, 2019, we would pray. Does anybody know what happens 1 year from today? The presidential election. So starting on this day, we will pray for the division of this country, and we will commit throughout this election year to treat each other with the golden rule. To do to others as you would have them do to you. That means listen to other people. Respect other people. Don't close other people out who disagree with you. You don't know where they've been. You don't know why they believe what they believe. You don't know why they vote the way they vote. We got to love everybody, folks. That's what it means to be a Christian. But it's not just a Christian. Did you know that when it comes to the golden rule, that it also is in Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, Sikhism, Unitarianism, native spirituality, Zoroaster, I don't even know that religion, but it's there too, Jainism, Judaism, Islam, Baha'i, and Hinduism. All of the major religions in this world have the golden rule. You think God finds it important? So important, in fact, that he has bled it into every single one of the religions. Do to others as you would have them do to you. Speak as you would want to be spoken to. Listen as you would want to be listened to. Give as you would want to be given to. Care as you would want to be cared for. Love as you want to be loved. It's what it means to be blessed. It's what it means to be a saint of Jesus Christ. Do to others as you would have them do to you. Love them like you want to be loved. Because you don't know where they've been. And you don't know where you're going. Amen.